You know, when you look at the history of Minnesota hockey, many names come to mind, but this guy, he did it all for Minnesota, and he bled Minnesota for so long. It was hard to tell when he even wanted to retire or needed to retire. Mike Antonovich, my God, what a career! One of the smallest major league players of the modern era, 5'6", 155, a centerman of all people. Played with all three Minnesota major league teams of the 1970s. The two versions of the Fighting Saints, the version of Minnesota North Stars, and probably if he could, he'd be playing for the Wild right now. But I don't think they'll allow too many 70-year-old players in a Wild's lineup, especially a long-time mayor like he is. We'll get into that very soon, his political and other careers that he's done. Now, he was selected by Minnesota in the 12th round, not say the last pick of the draft, in 1971, but 113th overall. Minnesota knew he was going to eventually play Major League Hockey, and here's why. He had a tremendous high school season with Greenway. Now, what was interesting, they used to call him the Ant. Why, I really don't know if anybody can tell me, but they called him Anton or Anton, and definitely the Ant or Ant. But in his high school career, he came to major prominence because he was one of the few players to wear glasses on the ice throughout his high school career. He won the Minnesota High School State title with Greenway in 1967. He was named to the Minnesota High School State Tournament All-Star team with that side in 67. He won the Minnesota High School title with Greenway in 68 and led Minnesota High School Tournament skaters in scoring with 9 for Greenway in 68. He was named to the Minnesota High School State Tournament All-Star team with the side that season and was named to the Minnesota All-State team in 67-68. He served as Greenway captain as a senior in 69, and he led all Minnesota high school tournament players in points 8 and goals 7, again for Greenway in 69. He completed his high school career in 1969 with 22 total points in 3 Minnesota state tournaments. He was also named to the Minnesota High School State Tournament All-Star squad in that 69 campaign. Also a Minnesota All-State team selection. Now, he led Minnesota with 43 points as a college freshman in 69-70 with the Gophers. He also scored a winning goal for Minnesota late in the third period to beat Wisconsin in the WCHA semifinals on March 11, 71. He also played on the Minnesota squad that lost to Boston University in the NCAA championship game on March 20th, 1971. So we're going to recap a little bit of his stats with Minnesota because he bear witness why he was drafted. Now, University of Minnesota was a tremendous powerhouse in college hockey at the time, and Antonovich was a big part of that. 1970 with Minnesota, he had 43 points in 32 games, including 23 goals. 71, he had 30 points in 32 games, and 14 goals. Now, the native Coleraine, which was a future mayor of the community, he attended high school there, of course. Born in Calumet, Minnesota, but don't tell the whole story. Now, he also played left wing during his pro career. Now, he signed a WHA contract with Minnesota on May 1st, 72. He played on the first Saints WHA team in the league's first season, 73, and appeared in that squad's first game on October 13, 72, versus the Bobby Hull's Winnipeg Jets. He also represented New England on the WHA All-Star team that faced Quebec in the WHA All-Star game on January 17, 78 at Quebec City. He also scored 3 goals in New England's 9-1 WHA AFCO World Cup quarterfinal series win over Edmonton on April 21st, 78. He also played on a New England squad that lost to Winnipeg in the AFCO Cup finals in 78. He led WHA playoff scores in points and goals with New England in 78. Now, he also played on the first Hartford Whalers NHL team, the franchise that later became Carolina Hurricanes, during Hartford's inaugural 1980 season after the 1979 merger, and of course the game was against, guess who? Minnesota. Now, he was also in the minors. He had great success. He was named to the CHL All-Star second team with Nashville in 81-82. He was also a member of the first New Jersey Devils team in 82-83 after the franchise had relocated from Colorado. Scored his first NHL goal at age 31 on a power play in New Jersey's November 29, 82 game versus Chicago. It came against Tony Esposito in the 22nd game of Antonovich's NHL career. He also won an AHL Calder Cup with Maine in 84, and he was ranked as the sixth greatest player in Minnesota high school hockey history by the Minneapolis Star-Tribune in 2011. But wait, there's more. At the 76th World Hockey Championships at Katowice, Poland, he helped Team U.S.A. to a fourth-place finish. He also was on the roster at the World Championships in Vienna in 77 and Helsinki and Tampere in 82. Did not play in 77. U.S. finished sixth. Did not play and got an 8th place finish in 82 at that big tournament. Now, just to recap some of these player movements, quite interesting. He signed a WHA contract with Minnesota again, but when those original Fighting Saints folded, he signed his NHL contract with Minnesota. It held his rights and played a dozen games in the NHL, so he played with two Minnesota teams in the same year. But on September 6, 76, he was traded by Calgary with Jack Carlson and Butch Deadmarch to Minnesota for Jim Harrison, and then signed a WHA contract with Minnesota, the second incarnation of the Fighting Saints, after being released by Minnesota of the NHL. Now, on January 14, 77, his WHA playing rights were sold by Minnesota with the rights to Jean-Louis Lavasseur, Bill Butters, Dave Keon, Jack Carlson, Steve Carlson, and Johnny McKenzie to Edmonton as Minnesota team prepared to cease operations. Now, on February 6, 77, he was traded by Edmonton with Bill Butters to England for Brett Callahan and Ron Busnick. October 17, he signed with the NHL Whalers as an unrestricted free agent. In June 1980, he signed with Lugano for a year in Europe. But in November 1980, he signed with Tulsa as a free agent after deciding not to play in Switzerland. Now, September 81, he signed with Minnesota as a unrestricted free agent, so it's his second time with the North Stars. But on August 12, 82, he came back to the NHL eventually because of signing with New Jersey as an unrestricted free agent. Now, his coaching career is well known. He was named the Minnesota Iron Rangers AMHA head coach prior to the 93 season and remained there until for the rest of the campaign. He was named St. Cloud Cathedral High School's head coach prior to the 94 season and stayed there until 95. He was named Minnesota's IHL assistant coach prior to the 96 season and remained there for the campaign. He was also named the Phoenix Roadrunners assistant coach on August 27, 96, and was there until December of that year. But he's also known for being a major factor in St. Louis's amateur scouting and continued until 2020. Now, he returned to Coleraine, Minnesota after hockey and eventually became involved in local politics in addition to his work as a coach and scout. He was elected mayor of Coleraine in November 2008 and served there for a number of years. Now, he's also the father of former minor league player Jeff Antonovich, who became a high school coach in Minnesota after retiring in 2006. Now, again, selected by the Saints in the 72 WHA draft, and it was a member of the Saints that folded on February 27, 76. And again, he also briefly came out of retirement to play 2 games for Minnesota of the AMHA in 93. Now, he left college after his junior year to turn pro with the Saints, and again, re-entered WHA to play for them in 76. Now, he coached St. Cloud Cathedral to a berth in the Minnesota High School Hockey Tournament, and also rejoined his old college coach Clem Somnor when he signed with Minnesota in 72. He was also a member of the second folding of the Minnesota Fighting Saints that folded on January 17, 77. He decided to unretire as well at age 44 to play 2 games with his son Jeff for the Quad City Colonial Hockey League squad in 96. Now, the big line he played with, and everybody knows that if you don't think about the WHA, he played in a line with Davey Keon and Johnny McKenzie for Minnesota in '76. Again, one of the shortest players in NHL history, especially in that early 1980s. And a top 50 player in Minnesota history in the 2000 Legend on Ice poll. But Antonovich, what really stands out for me, despite everything that happened, he, in relation to injuries, and what could have been a fatal fire, he never gave up. Now, he missed part of the 72 season with a knee injury suffered during Minnesota's December 7th, 71 exhibition game versus the U.S. team that was preparing for the Olympics. While he was out with the injury, get this, he suffered third-degree burns on his left leg in an accident at his apartment while he and his wife were making popcorn on Christmas Day 71. The accident happened because some of that oil the couple was using for their cooking caught on fire and spilled on his leg. Antonovich was hospitalized for 2 days, and he did not return to action until January 7, 72 against Wisconsin. Now, he also missed the remainder of the 72 season with damaged ligaments in his right knee, a re-aggravation of his earlier injury suffered in a fight with Mike Lundby during Minnesota's January 15, 72 game versus North Dakota, which was proven to be Antonovich's final college game. The injury required season-ending surgery. He also missed part of the 74 season with a broken right wrist, an injury suffered in a game versus New York on November 7, 73, and he was out for more than a month. He also missed part of the 80 season with sciatic nerve problem in his lower back, suffered in October of 79. He also missed part of the 80 season with a broken jaw when he was hit by a puck in a game against Vancouver. The injury required surgery, and he did not return until he was assigned to Springfield some 2 months later. He missed parts of the 83 season with a hairline fracture and damaged ligaments in his right wrist, an injury suffered during New Jersey's December 6, 82 game versus Winnipeg. He did not return until the Devils' January 15, 83 game at Hartford, of all places. He also missed part of the 83 season with a right knee injury suffered on February 15, 83, again versus Minnesota. He did not return until New Jersey's March 3rd, 10-83 game, of course, versus Hartford. You're seeing a pattern here, either Hartford or Minnesota, either getting injured or coming back. Now, just to the recount, as it stands right now, if my memory serves, he is at least a top 15 or top 20 WHA point scorer, and I'll tell you why. Rookie campaign with Minnesota in 73, a big 39 points in 75 games, 20 goals, including 3 in the playoffs. The next 3 seasons, he hit the 20 goal mark with 21, 24, and 25. Now, get this. Minnesota folded in 76. He went to the Stars. 2 assists in 12 games. His first time in the NHL. 77, Minnesota folded. He had 27 goals. Then he played with the Oilers, had 1 goal, then scored 12 more with New England to get him a combined 40 on the campaign. 78, another great season. 67 points in 75 games, including 32 goals, and a big 10 goals and 17 points in 14 playoff contests. 70 to 79, for some reason, he spent some time in the minors, but he had a good season with New England, with 20 goals and 27 assists for 47 points and 8 points in 10 playoff games, including 4 or 5 goals. Now, in 1980, the AHL shift affiliation to the Whalers. He played 14 games with Springfield, only had 1 assist in 5 games, injury-riddled. Now, 81, he found himself back in the minors, but he spent the whole season there with 60 points in 60 games. But you know he's going to head back to Minnesota. So the Nashville South Stars, he had 106 points in 80 games, including 29 goals. Second chance with Minnesota, which gave him his fifth tenure with an elite Minnesota squad, back-to-back. Played 2 games that year. 83, he played with the Wichita Wind for most of the campaign, put up 20 points in 10 games, with 30 games in New Jersey, 7 goals and 7 assists for 14 points. Now, 84, he split time between New Jersey again, where he had 8 points in 38 games, but in only 25 games in the regular season with Maine, he won a title that year. 30 points in 25 contests, including 17 goals and a big 12 points in the playoffs, so he won the Calder Cup. Now, in 93 again, came out of retirement, 2 assists for the Minnesota Iron Rangers of AHA, and then the Quad City Mallards again came out of retirement with 1 assist in 2 games. Now, the pro scouting with St. Louis again, a great amount of players he helped discover. But Antonovich, in my personal opinion, there needs to be some kind of full documentary or 30 for 30 on this guy, because the dedication he showed, like let's look at the rough numbers here. If he's only 7 years of age, he's been given to Minnesota hockey probably as a preteen, so that's 60 years where he's beaten the odds. A long shot to make the NHL, because he was but a big prospect, and he goes on a line with Davey Keon in the middle part of his career. And when Davey Keon is a taller line mate, it's pretty weird. But the massive, like, he gave so much to Minnesota, the Minnesota team he played for folded twice, and he never gave up on Minnesota. Minnesota got rid of him, and he came back again. So I mean, it's amazing. Now, just to recount as well, I want to know why he was called the Ant. Maybe Antonovich or whatever, but he was called the Great Anton. I know that, because in New England the announcer called him the Great Anton. So that's the 5th nickname. So 5 nicknames. You got a Calder Cup trophy, one of the best high school players in Minnesota history, played with every Minnesota franchise that could play up until the Wild. But again, he can't be 7 years old, played with Minnesota Wild. He's too busy being a mayor or a professional scout. I wonder if he takes time for a cup of tea or coffee or a good donut, because again, 5'6", 7 feet tall for everybody else, 155 pounds. I mean, Bobby Lalonde and the other small players. I mean, and he was a big scorer. Get this to the stats, ladies and gentlemen. WHA totals: 370 points, 182 goals in 486 games, and 22 goals and 42 points in 58 playoff games. And even the NHL, decent numbers, 25 points in 87 games. But what really stands out for me, ladies and gentlemen, and this is something that we can talk about, only 195 minutes in penalties in his career, and a majority of it came in them in his first season. In 74, a very gentlemanly player, he only had 4 minutes in penalties in 74. Okay? Most seasons, no more than 30 or 40 minutes in penalties. And even when he would take a major, he took a major in New Jersey in 83. It was almost a shock to us that were following the Devils, because he was never a dirty player. But that 1984 Devils team, this was a rough and tumble squad. They had Mel Birchman, Pat Verbeek, Joe Cirella, Bobby McMillan was still around, Aaron Broughton, Don Lever, Paul Gagne, Phil Russell. It was almost like the Chicago Blackhawks St. Louis combination team. Grant Mulvey was there as well, but Chico Rush and Ron Lowe. They had a rough season, only 17 wins, but my God. Antonovich, there was a game they had played, I think, against... Am I losing my mind here? I don't think that's the Mickey Mouse game, but the Devils had played against in Edmonton in the Northlands, and he just clobbered him. And I still remember all these years Antonovich had overachieved, and I could see him skating. I think it was either against Edmonton or Winnipeg. It was a tough game, and he basically was. I could see him telling his teammates, "Don't get down, guys. Keep focus." If I'm going to have a hero to look up to, if I'm a young Minnesota high school hockey player, you'd be best to follow this guy's example. I've been impressed by him as soon as I heard about him, especially in that year again when Minnesota folded. He went to Minnesota, then he went back to Minnesota, and the other Minnesota team folded. How dedicated can you be? You lose your job 3 different ways, and you're still dedicated. You're still dedicated to the WHA. And what he played like in New England was just tremendous. Anyway, I can't say enough of this guy because, again, I saw him in the All-Star game in 78, and I've always been impressed with this guy. My only regret is I didn't get to cover him until the end of his career, because by the time I was out of college and working in journalism, he was pretty well retired. But I mean, Mariners team, boys, he had a lot of fans. He's big in Maine as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of the great and outstanding Mike Antonovich. If you like what we're doing here, give us a like, comment, and subscribe. If Facebook is down, check out my channel. It'll kill the time until it comes back up. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, maybe never. Have a good day. Bye.